Hi, and welcome to our instructional video on the audio functions of the Panasonic UX90 camera. I'm Mark Conley Wilson. I'm an instructor at the Austin Community College Department of Radio, Television, and Film. On the front of the camera, it does come equipped with its own built-in internal microphone. If you want to hook up to more professional connections, we do have two XLR inputs. Right here on the top here, you'll notice by the little mic holder here, that is audio input 1. It's labeled right at the top, and that's for an XLR connection. And we have a second one here that is for audio input 2. You want to be able to monitor your audio, so in addition, we need a place to plug in our headphones. Under this little door here, there is a connector for your headphones. This input is a standard 1/8 stereo mini plug, and it goes in here. And you'll notice the moment you plug it in, up will pop a on-screen display showing you your output level. Now this output only controls what the operator hears, has no effect over what's being recorded by the camera. Here on the LCD screen, we've got a touch screen here, and you can use the arrows here to change the output level. And don't worry if the display disappears on you, you can always bring it back later. Now that we've talked about the connections on the camera, let's look at how we control them externally. We have a control panel here that's got a bunch of switches and options here. On the left side, if you start at the top, you'll see input 1. We can set between line, mic levels. We also have the option to turn phantom power on or off. That's 48 volts, positive 48 volts. The same for input 2 is below, just a mirror copy of what you see for input 1. And then to the right, the next column, we have our settings for routing where that channel is getting its input fed from. So channel 1, at the very top, you can choose internal mic, or input 1, or input 2. Channel 2, same thing, internal mic, or input 1, or input 2. And next to that, we have our volume controls for channel 1 and channel 2. It says audio level. These are independent manual controls of your volume level coming into the camera. So these are the ones that are most important to set correctly to make sure you don't overdrive your camera coming in. Okay, now that we've made all of our settings, don't forget to close the door there. That protects your settings from being inadvertently bumped or changed. Okay, automatic mode is awesome, and this camera does have that. By the way, there's a switch down here you need to be aware of. Always check that this switch hasn't inadvertently been moved to a setting you don't want. One side is automatic, that's full auto mode on everything, audio, camera. The other side is manual. We want to be in manual mode in most cases. Okay, now that we've looked at the controls for making settings and routing audio and all that, we're going to go back to the first thing we need to do, which is making settings inside the camera in the menu. Now, as you've learned before, when we reset the camera, we do a full reboot of the camera and restore it back to kind of initial set. And when that's done, the default of this camera is that all of our audio settings get changed, the ones that we care about get changed to automatic mode, and we don't want that. So let's take a look in the menu, and I'll show you how to change those settings back to give us manual control over those. Okay, so I'm going to hit the menu button here, and I'm going to go into the menu. And I need to find our audio setup menu. You'll notice it's on page 2 there. I go inside, and here where I find all my settings in the soft menu for audio. There are 3 pages of audio settings. You look in the top right, you'll see we're on page 1 of 3. As I scroll this scroll wheel down, I move through the various pages. Now I'm on page 2. And then finally page 3, and then if I keep scrolling, it goes back to page 1. Now I'm back at the very first item on page 1 of 3. Soft menu refers to the fact that I'm inside the software of the camera doing software functions. All right. Hard switches are switches on the exterior of the camera body. All right, looking at the first item under audio setup, we have audio low cut. We're not going to deal with that right now. There's one for each channel. We're just going to bypass that. But the third item and the fourth item are the 2 that we need to deal with. Audio level channel 1. As I mentioned before, the camera can record on 2 channels. So our first channel is currently default to auto level control. We want manual control. So what you do is push in on the scroll wheel and switch it from auto to manual. Okay, let's move down to the next one for channel 2. I'm going to move it to manual, but remember you can use your finger and use the touchscreen function of the display to move it to manual, as well as using the scroll wheel. I'll exit using my touchscreen. If you want more information about the audio functions and the soft menu here, we have some great instructional videos provided on Blackboard. They're produced by Panasonic with host Barry Green. He goes into much more in-depth coverage of the functions. So let's do some recording using the internal built-in mic of the Panasonic UX90 camera. It's a great sounding mic, but it's not going to work for all situations. Let's do a little demonstration so you can see what I'm talking about. I'd like to mention, by the way, that the input settings for this particular demonstration, we have input 1 set to mic, input 2 is set to mic as well. Channel 1 select is selecting internal left microphone, which is the left side of the built-in mic, and channel 2 select is also to internal, but the right side of the built-in mic. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm now standing about an arm's length away from the built-in internal mic of the camera. I'm speaking in a normal speaking voice, and I'm going to start stepping back from the camera, continuing to count in a normal volume level. Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. At this point, I'm a good 10 feet away from the camera. I'm not really speaking any louder than I was when I was an arm's length away from the camera. But let me increase my volume just a bit. Now I'm speaking in a loud, clear voice. Can you hear me now? Notice the room is very, very reverberant. You can hear the echo, the short reflections. Let me stop screaming now. I'll speak in a normal speaking voice again and come back toward the camera. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm back about an arm's length away from the camera. So as you can see, it does a better job very close, but when I move back away from the camera into the space, especially when I'm in a large space such as this, that the audio becomes too muddy, not very clear, not very useful. But we can fix that. So I have here a Sennheiser K6 microphone. It's a shotgun mic. It's very directional. I believe it's a hypercardioid pickup pattern. Yes, it is. I see from the little emblem here on the side. If I wanted, I could mount this onto the camera, change my inputs, and use it instead of the built-in internal mic. In this situation, for the demonstration of stepping backwards and hearing how my voice trails off in the sound of the room, it really wouldn't sound much different. Where it might be more useful if I were out in an environment that was noisy, say I was doing documentary filmmaking or news gathering, this mic does a superior job of projecting around the sides compared to the built-in internal mic. So in that case, this would probably be the best choice. Just wanted to mention that option should it be the right choice for your production. Let's take a look at some microphones. I have an array of microphones here on the table. We're going to look at them individually in just a moment. When we talk about microphones, we classify them by their type. Are they dynamic? Are they condenser style? And this has to do with how a microphone translates acoustic energy into audio, which is electric energy, so to speak, voltage moving down a wire. Each microphone handles this process differently based on its design. More about that later. Microphones also hear and reject in different ways depending on the polar response or the pickup pattern of the microphone. Lastly, microphones are sometimes categorized or referred to by their style, the type of microphone in that respect, from their design. We'll find microphones that are handheld, we'll find microphones that are clip-on lavalier mics, we'll find microphones that are stick microphones, or even a shotgun mic like the one we're going to work with primarily. Let's take a look at these mics individually now. So let's look at these mics more in depth individually. So I'm going to start with this first mic. This is an RE10. It's an Electro Voice mic, and it is a dynamic type of microphone. Dynamic microphones, if you look at the lecture notes, you'll notice that dynamic microphones have some advantages and disadvantages. They are really good with loud signals close to the source, what we call transient energy, a large amount of transient energy. They're used by vocalists who hold them in their hand and get really close to the mic and scream. You'll hear rock singers and rock bands singing into them. A lot of studios will use dynamic style microphones on the bass drum or the kick drum or bass amps or guitar amps because there's a lot of energy coming close proximity to the mic there. They're not real sensitive. They are rugged. If you drop it on the floor, there's a good chance it won't break. Let's take a listen to this microphone. I'm going to plug it in. And we can use it for narration. DJs tend to use cardioid style microphones as well, where they get really close to the mic. One of the advantages of getting close to the mic is we remove the room from the recording. We have direct sound from the source to the microphone. So I don't want to eat the mic. This is a mistake I see a lot of singers using and people that do voiceover. They get right on top of the mic. It's too close. You want to be about 5-6 inches away. It's still close enough to get a good signal to noise ratio. I'll do a little counting here. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Another good point about a dynamic type microphone is it requires no external power. The recording device, in this case our camera, provides all the power needed for it to function. And there you go, a dynamic microphone. Okay, moving on to the next microphone here. I have here the Electro Voice RE11. It's a dynamic type microphone, and the pickup pattern on this, the way that it hears, is what we call a cardioid pickup pattern. Sort of a harp-shaped pattern that comes straight out the end of the microphone and kind of widens out as it moves outward. That means it rejects along the side. You'll see these little baffles here on the side. Those actually listen to the sound around the mic and do some sort of phase inversion magic to remove some of the sound around the side that helps it reject so that it focuses on what it hears out the end. All right, so now I'm going to put it in front of my mouth so you can actually hear what it sounds like. This is, again, a dynamic style microphone. I'm going to count, and as I talk, I'm just going to count, and I'm going to move the microphone off axis, meaning I'll move it away from my mouth. So here I am, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Notice how it seems to drop off pretty quickly once I get not pointing straight at my mouth. When I'm over here, we lose some sound, but over here, it's back in again. There it is, the RE11. So let's take a look at the next mic on the table. This is a RE50B Electro Voice. Now you notice the mic color is black. Don't let that throw you. Microphones come in a variety of colors and styles, different shapes, all that. This is a omnidirectional microphone, so it differs from the cardioid in its way that it picks up and the way it rejects. It's designed so that you can be on axis and be a little bit off axis, and it shouldn't really change the volume that much. It should be about the same as I count. 3, I'll do a count from, here we go, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pretty good job, right? It's great for recording the whole room ambience and sound, crowd reaction, that sort of thing. Anytime you want the mic to not have to worry, if you're doing a two-shot, you have two people you're interviewing, you just have it down in between you, and it's going to do a really good job of picking up the talent on both sides of you. That is the EV RE50B. Now let's take a look at this mic. This one's a little different. This is actually a lavalier mic. This is the Sony ECM 55B. It's a lavalier mic, meaning it is something that clips onto the actor's clothing around the collarbone. But it's a wired mic, so even though it's got this long cable, this part here is not the microphone. This is simply the connector to house the battery, because this one does require phantom power or power to run the microphone. So we're using that in the form of a battery. So I'm going to plug it in here. It's simply a connector. Don't be confused. It's not a microphone, this part here. It's just big and bulky. And you would put this on the ground, and then you would run this up under the clothing to hide it if need be. And then you would clip this onto the clothing here. So now I'm actually talking through the microphone so you can hear what it sounds like. This is a lavalier style mic. The purpose of a lavalier mic, of course, is to try to remove the room from the sound of the recording. We have the actor's voice going straight down to the microphone, trying to eliminate the room. It's a very directional microphone. I believe this is a cardioid pickup pattern. So again, it's going to pick up to me and reject around me. So if I have other people in the room, we'll get a more clear recording of myself. Okay, moving on, we're going to look at some wireless lav mics. I have a set here of a transmitter. I should say a set, meaning there's two sections to the setup. We have the microphone, which is hooked up to the transmitter. And then we also have the receiver. These are made by the Electrosonics company. These are really high-end lavalier wireless microphones. So again, this would hook up into the body and the microphone would be clipped here. Now, I don't have this hooked up, we're not going to listen to it, but to get the general idea of how this sounds, I'm currently wearing a Sennheiser wireless lavalier mic. I have the pack here in my pocket, just there, and I was trying to be a bit discreet with the wiring, so I ran the wiring up under my shirt and it comes out through the buttonhole here, and it's clipped somewhere up here. I can't find it, but it's there, trust me. And you can hear me talking so you know what it sounds like. This is a pretty standard microphone in the industry, sort of intermediate level. It's a Sennheiser EW100. And lastly, let's look at this mic, which is a mic we're using for a lot of our demonstrations. By the way, it actually comes in two pieces before you assemble it. It has to be put together because it requires a battery. And I want to take a moment to point this out. This is an important little bit. The logo inside shows you the placement of the battery. The label of the battery is oriented so that it tells you which side is the positive and which side is the negative. The spring is on the right side. Typically, that's the negative pole when you put a AA battery in. But in this case, it's backwards, meaning that what you're usually accustomed to, the negative and the positive are reversed. So you wouldn't put it in this way. You would actually put it with the negative at the end and the positive, and you have to put the positive in first, against the spring for the mic to work properly. And once it's in there, I'm going to flip it up this way. Once you put the battery in, you need to turn the mic on. There's a little switch here, and you should see a little flash of the light when you flip it up if the battery's working. Okay, moving on, let's plug this up and listen to it. So this is a very directional mic. To it in slang as a shotgun mic. That's what you're going to hear people calling it. Okay, so obviously this microphone has way too much self-handling noise for us to actually hear what it sounds like properly during this test, but that's okay. We're going to be hearing it later on in the demonstration because it will be the mic that we primarily use. So if you take a look on the sides, all the way around the microphone, and I'm going to spin it here, you'll see it has these baffles all the way around. That helps the mic in rejecting sound coming around all of the sides. Its pickup pattern, the hypercardioid pickup pattern, happens out of the end here. So when you point the microphone toward the subject, it rejects on the side where all these baffles are, all the way around, but it picks up out the end in what we call a hypercardioid pickup pattern. That's a very narrow focused beam that only widens a little bit as it moves away from the microphone, making this mic an ideal choice for film production.